Fundamentally, there's one big problem. Big problem. And this problem is having this thing called mind. You know, it'd be so nice if you had this flower, I don't know, or this carpet. Somebody walk over it, doesn't matter. We all leave this carpet behind, it doesn't feel sort of ignored or left behind. Put this in the shop and put a price tag and doesn't feel abused. You know what I mean? So we have this thing called mind. It's just so painful. It just keeps on thinking something, knowing something, cognizing something. I can sort of have some sympathy for those who want to hang themselves, commit suicide. I think they think that they reach to they can switch it off. No, it's just so painful, this mind keeps on thinking something. And then, of course, all the other things that helps to think doesn't help. As soon as this mind see many this sign in your Instagram, you are happy. Stuff like that, you know, just this mind is so painful. But this mind is also supposedly, like Saraha said, Rinchen, it's like a Rinpoche, you know, like jewel. Rinchen non risam la chatsalo, you know, like I prostrate to the mind that is like a jewel. So it's also, I guess, very precious, and it's such a blessing that we have a mind. So, as long as there's a mind, I guess there is going to be something called journey, path, a goal, and path to that goal, and technique, sort of technique to dwell on that path, so that one will not go astray, and challenges, and then of course again the technique to how to overcome these challenges. So as long as you have that, I guess there's also well, when you have the path, this also means there's something called path dweller. And a path dweller means, I guess, you are not perfect yet. So thinking this, last night I was thinking, what am I supposed to say here today? So I thought maybe I will talk about sort of a very brief introduction on the path of the Buddha. To talk about the path of the Buddha, I think it would be easier if you can understand it by making few categories. The first, and I guess the most important, is what is the profit? The result, so to speak. Voilà. What do we get? What is it in it for us? And so that's one. And then I guess we need to talk about how to get that result. So to do that, I think we can talk about sort of two things. One is more like how to Gompa meditation. I think meditation is overly used word, but okay, let's call it meditation. And then together with this meditation, Jepa, behavior, sort of action, Jepa, behavior, sort of action.
Conduite.
Conduite, yeah. So we have the result, meditation, and the action. But All these, result, meditation and action, all this need to be based on a certain view. That's the most important. And traditionally, we are supposed to spend so most of your time trying to really establish this view. Well, depending on what kind of person you are, you could get that, you could really see that view instantly, if you have that kind of faculty. But most of us, we don't have that kind of faculty. So first of all, we try to sort of establish this view through hearing, contemplation, more on an intellectual way. But the intellectual approach to the view is, even though you may have a little sort of a conviction or confidence on that view intellectually, because we have something called mind, remember, habit, we keep on forgetting it. So it's like, even though you intellectually know smoking is not good, you just, when you see somebody smoking with all that ritual, you just fall for it. Even the most vivid warning on the cigarette boxes doesn't really help. You don't even see it. So so we establish the view through something called meditation. But anyway, the view is very, very important. And I think that is something that, if you are interested in following the Buddha, I think this is something that you should really spend time. And how do we do it? The best way, I know, the best way is something that most of so-called intellectual, critical people may not like. But best way is actually prayer. Yeah, best way is pray to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And it makes sense. Because in the prayer, there's something to do with the longing. Prayer is something to do with the longing, So, when you have a longing to something particular, like when I'm longing for a white rose, desperately, then I will not think about marigold too much. Yeah, but right now there's so many marigold coming in, so no rose. So the best way is prayers. And this is not only me talking like this. Even the most critical men, one of the most critical men, Chandrakirti, said this. When someone asked him, to whom should we teach shunyata? He didn't say to someone who finished a PhD in Sorbonne University. He didn't say that. He said instead, we should teach shunyata to those who, by moment you utter the word shunyata, they have goosebumps, they have tears in their eyes. To them shunyata should be taught. Okay. Anyway, as I said earlier, most of us, including me, don't really trust the prayers. Just our so-called skeptical mind, the skepticism that we have is just it's so crippled, and it's neutered. It's our skepticism is neutered by our logic. It's really strange, isn't it? Our skepticism is not good. The best skeptical people are these tantric yogis, practitioners. They're the real skeptic. So, first of all, we don't trust the prayers. And And if you do trust prayers in general, you don't trust your prayer. And then even if you do sort of trust the prayer and your prayer, there's also a little bit of, our prayer is sort of hindered by all this sort of theistic, sort of external, internal, subjective, objective. It becomes too complicated. So then, that's why Maitreya said again and again, not just Maitreya, many people need to, study, hear and contemplate. And discipline is necessary. Discipline is like the ground. Yes, so, like a vegan is important. This kind of discipline. I'm serious. I'm not, trying to make up, So there are many teachings. I could almost say more than 50% of the teachings of the Buddha, probably much more, is to establish the view. Okay? Now, I'm sure some of you, those who are new, probably by now thinking, what view is he talking about? Well, I will just spit it out. All compounded things are impermanent, and all emotions are pain. These two are more relative view, and all things are inherently non-existent, and nirvana is beyond concept or extreme. So basically, these two are like more ultimate view. Now I know I've been talking with Jimmy Chenchen Rinpoche. This even though sort of it is there, in the philosophical, I think it's there, but the distinctions of relative truth and ultimate truth, this kind of distinctions seems really not in the Western philosophy or science or. That's an important one, and this is also something that those who are serious in studying Buddhism should explore a little bit. Just briefly, I will tell you. I don't know, maybe this is not the best example, but let's try. Paradox. You can say Buddhist philosophy is really a path to appreciate the paradox and how to really apply the understanding of paradoxy in our life. This is actually a bit of a Buddhist logic thing talking about now. Fundamentally, we always think something is real. And it's very strange. When we think something is real, many times there are many reasons why it is real. For instance, like the sun. Sun is a real sun because, we all see it. That's like a consensus. Sort of a democracy, kind of. Or, this hall. Yeah, let's go to this hall. In Paraguay, that hall, this place, that, sort of, it has been existing for some time. That also helps something is real. Like, your citizen card have a birth date. That helps to prove you exist. It's a bit like this. Sometimes, it's quite strange. Sometimes, when things are opposite, but actually it's a seemingly opposite, but actually, because it's opposite, it helps to think that it's real. So for instance, basically I'm talking about, it's there, but it's not there. The face that you saw in the mirror for past 56 years, never once you experience suddenly a baboon with a banana cane. You understand? So it exists, but it's also not there. It's there, but it's not there. Like a rainbow. It's there, but it's not there. By the way, some of this we appreciate. Like if you are watching a movie, and it's a really good movie, romantic, suspenseful, you are crying, you are getting scared, all of this. But if your bladder is full, you just stop and go to the toilet. So you know it's there, but it's not there. Yeah. Some of the things we know these things. And not only we have that kind of wisdom, we also have that kind of high class compassion. Like if you are a mother playing with a child, building a sand castle, and involve, this is the door, this is the window, this is where, all that. But, for the sake of the child. But you also know it's not really castle. So, but you play, you get along. So in a very, very good compassion. Now, Buddhism, I will say, is probably the best in explaining this paradox. Because what Buddhists are saying is, all of this, even us talking here right now, is there, but it's not there. And I was talking with one of my Indian friends. We were talking about this, and he was saying that he doesn't know how much West, even though the West has the word paradox, how much are they really, really, really understanding the meaning of this and really living with it? And you may ask, okay, why should we know this? Do you want a magic or not? Paradox creates magic. It's so good. If you can understand and appreciate and play with it, it's a magical. If you don't understand this, then magic is just a trick. Yeah, then the trick is a sort of lower class magic, right? This is why I think people like taking hallucinogenic stuff, I think. Because, for a little bit of time, you feel this so strange. Recently I took a little bit of hallucinogenic mushroom, and then I was digging my teeth with a toothpick, and I'm sure only a very little wood went inside my mouth, right? So I felt like there was like a train going in. And I was like laughing, it's so strange, this wood going in my mouth. Yeah. So this 4 thing I was talking earlier, the 4 seal, let's call it. It's a really, really very profound way of understanding this paradoxy. Something like that, yeah. We were just talking about how when we talk of paradox, it seems like it's 2 things that are seemingly opposite but not. But actually in Buddhism, like Heart Sutra, there's a 4. Form is emptiness, form is not other than emptiness is not other than a form. Yeah. 4, not just para. This is why the understanding and appreciating that paradox is really, this is why in Buddhism everything is acceptable. When earlier Rinpoche was giving me something, on rice and all that, you have seen. He was giving me the whole universe on a small plate. And he was giving me things like wish-fulfilling cow. But because of paradox, I don't have to worry about where to put this cow. So all this seemingly very ritualistic prayers, all this, it's acceptable. Yeah, so this is, I think, quite important. It's not some sort of intellectual philosophy that deconstruct everything, wear a beret and chew a big cigar and drink thick coffee and think about it and do nothing, and die with an existentialist angst. Okay. So that's view now, sort of, very, very briefly. Okay, that's the view. Okay, let's jump to the result. So we are talking about a view, tawa, gompa, meditation, chepa,